Hello, everybody. Welcome into this episode of Pawd Slama Jama. We've previewed all the other positions, both on offense and defense, and we have one left. And this very well is the most important position on the football team heading into the 2023 season. That's the offensive line when it comes to offense specifically, how important and how many aspects it affects into whatever the offense is trying to do. We've mentioned it in our previous episodes, just how much Houston is looking to emphasize the running game this upcoming season, and when it comes to time of possession as well in the first year in the Big 12. And the most key component to that success is going to come to the offensive line, which has a couple of anchors across the line when it comes to Jack Freeman at center and Patrick Paul at left tackle. But there could be some interesting positions that brew, and there's some position battles that could be interesting to see how they shake out over the course of training camp.
It will be interesting to see. I think you can pencil in maybe three starters. So, I mean, add again Tyler Johnson, who started a number of games last year. But
Mm-hmm.
it all starts up front with Jack Freeman and Paul on the left side, protecting the blind side from who was ever a quarterback. Paul getting a lot of notoriety, rightfully so. I expect he'll be a draft pick, another offensive lineman, Jefferson from Houston. And I expect for him to have an even bigger year. I think like he said, he wants to show he can play at a high level in a better conference against better competition week in and week out. And he said he wants to show more aggressive, limit some of the mistakes that he had last year. So I expect for him to anchor down that left side, no worries there. And I think Jack Freeman will be that what's the right word that I should use? Tone setter. I think he would be the tone setter, and he will enable the quarterbacks to have that confidence, like I said in our other segment when we talked about the quarterbacks. I think his experience and his leadership will be able to settle down not only the quarterback, will be able to communicate throughout the offensive line to help them gel as a unit quickly. And they got a new offensive line coach who done a great job at Tulane, especially in their running game. And so, yeah, Iman Nagavi coming over from Tulane, a highly talented offensive line coach, and also is going to be the run game coordinator. We see where Tulane's running game was able to be so successful last year. I expect for him to come over and help this offensive line gel even more. And he's from throughout the Houston area. So I think that will help him as well to be able to connect with some of the offensive linemen. But who's going to step in on some of those other offensive linemen spots? Is there any names that you're hearing that's sticking out to you?
No, I think the biggest name that's worth keeping an eye on just because of where he comes from is Jalen Garth out of Texas, a transfer out of Texas, who kind of, again, following a similar path to Tyler Johnson. But I think what makes this offensive line group interesting is there's a chance for a lot of battles over the course of training camp. It'll be interesting to see who ends up winning those starting spots. I think most definitely Jack Freeman and Patrick Paul, you can as close to right in stone as you can in terms of pencil setting them as the two starters at center and left tackle respectively. But then after that, there's a lot of potential competition. I agree with you when it comes to Tyler Johnson. He was the starter at right guard a lot of games for Houston in this past season, 2022 season. But Tank Jenkins is actually the player that started off the season as the starter, and over the course of the season, he ended up losing a spot to Tyler Johnson, but Ruben Ruben Unije, who potentially played snaps at right tackle for Houston a season ago, and even at the left guard position when it comes to Max Baines and the recent transfer in Peyton Dunn out of the University of Louisiana Monroe. It's going to be interesting to see how those battles shake out. Garth is listed as an offensive tackle, so maybe he could be someone that goes in and gives Ruben a couple of run for his money at the right tackle position. And even when it comes to Baines, who didn't necessarily start a lot for Houston, but he appeared in 8 games, and a lot of those appearances were at left guard. There's just so many pieces that could end up shaking up a lot different when it comes to the start of the season. And again, you have those two key anchors at the important positions. It's going to be interesting to see how the other pieces fit and what's going to be vital for the Houston Cougars team. We know that whoever's under center for Houston, whether it be Donovan Smith, whether it be Lucas Coley, they're going to need the offensive line. They're going to play an important role to be able to not only protect them, but establish a dominant run game. And it's going to, if they're able to be dominant and set the tone when it comes to the battle in the trenches, it's going to go a long way when it comes to how successful the offense is in the 2023 season.
It all starts up front. Like you said, it's their play determines how well the offense looks. Because if you can't protect the quarterback, then your passing game is null and void. If you can't open up holes and get any push on the offensive line in the run game, then it kind of just makes you one-dimensional. So I think it is key. I like Jalen Garth, the name that you mentioned, transfer out of Texas. He was highly recruited coming out of high school, a lot of notoriety, and he's a tackle. Could he be that swing tackle, maybe on that right side, or get some run at that left tackle if Paul maybe needs a break or anything like that? And one thing that Houston talks about is depth, especially at the offensive line as well. They sometimes will rotate players in certain spots, just allows them to get snaps and to keep them fresh. And so you have quality depth throughout the offensive line, and you can work on in and out just depending on a series or two or whatever the case may be to keep them fresh. That's only for the better beneficial for the team. And so I think this is definitely most important. The group, up line, up front, how good will they be? How good will the running game be? Will we be able to run the football? Will we be able to keep the quarterback clean? I know sometimes people was questioning the offensive line last year, but in my opinion, a lot of times Clayton Tune had a lot of time to throw the football. I mean, a lot of games he had time to get the ball to Tank or whatever the case may be. Then he would have enough time even to extend plays. And so the offensive line did a good job pass blocking last year, in my opinion, for the majority of the season. Of course, some games you don't have your best game, but I think that will be a strength. But I want to know how much will this new offensive line coach aid our running game? Will he make it better? Will he bring new techniques, new philosophies that'll help this running game be even better? Because he's also the running game coordinator.
For sure. I think there's a lot of stock. There's a lot of stock, most definitely. There's a lot of confidence in Coach Hogerson that Coach Hogerson has in Coach Nagavy, like you mentioned, coming from Tulane, and what he was able to help lead in the success that the Green Wave had a season ago is a big part of why they were able to go to the Cotton Bowl and upset USC in that bowl game. And that's something that head coach Dan Hogerson hopes that he's able to do here in Houston. When you look at a season ago, down, you're 100%. The depth component, something that Dana Hogerson mentioned over the course of last season. The biggest difference when it comes to quote unquote a Power 5 team and a non-Power 5 team is that depth. And I think, again, looking at the roster heading into training camp, there's going to be a lot of position battles brewing. Like I said, it's going to be intriguing to see who ends up winning those positions. But even though someone doesn't necessarily win a starting spot, hopefully they're at the point where they're comfortable being able to be rotated in. And if, long drive, you never know, over the course of an entire season, you're going to need players to come in there and, not miss a beat when it comes to having to fill a role and just go and plug in and play, especially at the offensive line position. Injuries are a part of the game. They're going to be bound to happen. One other thing I did want to add in terms of the running game, and like you said, a lot of the importance that Houston is going to focus on, and they're hoping that Coach Nagavy is able to turn a corner when it comes to that offensive line position, because of course they played the key important role that they play in the running game. Just look at a season ago. I think I 100% agree with you in terms of when you look at the pass protection, for the most part, the offensive line was solid. They were checked the box there as a big reason why Clayton Tune was able to excel, and certainly towards the middle of the season when we started seeing a lot of crazy numbers from a passing standpoint. The aspect that they kind of struggled in, it was being able to be a run blocking team. And there was a reason why they were 77th in the country when it came to rushing overall. They only averaged 141 rushing yards per game. And that's going to be something that, again, Houston's going to be looking to tick up. They don't want they don't want to be 77th when it comes to the entire country again, when it comes to rushing.
They don't. And I think in the addition of both quarterbacks this year, that'll add another element to their running game that Clayton Tune had the ability to do so last year, but it wasn't many design runs for Clayton Tune. Sometimes it was in critical situations. You see a quarterback draw or quarterback power for Clayton to pick up those runs, but I think we'll see even more of that with the abilities of Donovan Smith and Lucas Coley. So It's going to be very important for the offensive line, not only in protecting them in the passing game and keeping them clean, but for the running game, it's opening up holes and getting that push up front to allow the running backs and even the quarterbacks to be able to make plays and again stay ahead of the chains and not be in these second down and third and long situations.
For sure. And that's pretty much going to do it for today's episode of Pawd Slama Jama. As always, we thank each and every single one of you who took the time out of the day to make us a part of your day. We are officially on the road to September 2, the week 1 for the Houston Cougars as they kick off their inaugural season as a member of the Big 12 Conference. Obviously, they're going to be hosting UTSA to begin to open the season. And like we mentioned throughout this whole episode, the offensive line is going to be a key, important component to that. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you are watching us on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, if you are a returning supporter to the channel, be sure to hit the like button. That's the easiest way to support us. And if you are listening to us on an audio-only platform, whether it be Spotify, whether it be Apple Podcast, whether it be any other audio-only platform, be sure to give us a rating, give us some stars, give us something, whatever the function is on that respective platform. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, Dayon, you get the final word.
It's always a pleasure talking Coug sports. Always a pleasure doing alongside the great Andy Yanez. But we can't end the episode without saying, go Cougs.